Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. It ain't pretty, okay? Let's go ahead and dive in. And I think so here's the thing. Oklahoma got absolutely destroyed by South Carolina on Saturday. USC lost another game to a Big Ten opponent on the road that isn't very good in Maryland. And so I had a lot of people, Torres, you going to talk about Oklahoma? Torres, you going to talk about Southern Cal? Well, I'll tell you what. They have one thing that's tying them together. Lincoln Riley is the former Oklahoma head coach. He's now at USC. Because Lincoln Riley is at USC, that means Brent Venables is the head coach at Oklahoma. So I just bring it up because rather than talk about these two teams individually, individual segments, let's just ask a simple question. Which program is in worse shape right now? I don't think there's a great answer, but I think it's worth discussing. Oklahoma 4-3, USC 3-4, and that Oklahoma 4-3, by the way, is totally fraudulent. If Peyton Thorne didn't throw a pick six at the worst possible time, they lose to Auburn. They're not good. Who do they struggle with? Houston or somebody early in the season. Neither program is good. Both fan bases are turning on the coaches, and it is not pretty for those two teams. And so what's interesting is it's fascinating to break this down from the Oklahoma perspective. That South Carolina, I've never seen anything like the South Carolina game, okay? Because the South Carolina game, for people who weren't watching, and unless you're a South Carolina or Oklahoma fan, I don't know why you would. You know that Oklahoma, I've never seen this, was down. This is an insane stat. Oklahoma was down 21-0 at the 9:30 mark of the first quarter. Oklahoma was down 21-0 for 5 minutes into the game, not even 5 minutes into the game. If you missed it, opening drive, South Carolina scores, then a fumble recovery for a touchdown, then a pick six for a touchdown. Michael Hawkins ultimately gets benched. He, of course, replaced Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold comes back in. It doesn't really get that much better under Jackson Arnold. They finished the game without a touchdown, without finding the end zone. They did finish with 291 yards, but 3 field goals is the only offense that they have. And I'll say this. Felt like Oklahoma fans wanted to believe in Brent Venables because he is not Lincoln Riley. Well, it ain't very pretty under Brent Venables. Here's the thing, though. It ain't pretty under Lincoln Riley either. And listen, if there's an Oklahoma fan in this chat or watches this clip after, go back and look. I was wrong on Lincoln Riley, too. I got to own it. I thought Lincoln Riley would be unbelievable. These stats on Lincoln Riley are insane, okay? So first of all, they lose to Maryland. Crazy game. Like every game this season, they were up and in control at half, or basically every game that they've played this season. Second half, they continue to fall apart. And with it, this is one of the most jarring stats I've ever seen, okay? Year one, they go 11-3. Remember, if Caleb Williams doesn't get hurt in the Pac-12 championship game, they probably make the 12-team playoff. He gets hurt, they go 11-3. They started 6-0 last year. They finished 8-5 overall. They're 3-5 this year, which means that if my math is correct, and I know that it is, they are now 5-9 since starting 6-0 last year. They are 5-9 in their last 14 games. And here is the crazy stat that I came across last night. Clay Helton, who we all agree was a disaster, never once finished, and it never once had a 14-game stretch where he was 5-9 or worse. So that tells you how bad things are. They're 0-3 on the road, 3 trips to the, I guess, Eastern or Central time zones, lost to Minnesota. The Michigan gets worse by the week, lose to Maryland. I guess don't play teams that start with M on the road, and you might be good. But this is a disaster. And so now to the question, who's actually in worse shape? Because I think it's an interesting conversation. Oklahoma is kind of interesting because I'll say this about Oklahoma. To me, and this goes to something, my buddy Colin Cowherd says this all the time. He says, my number one indicator of a coach is your side of the football at least doing okay, right? So take Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, down to the end, you could criticize the quarterback play, the offense, his ability to draft wide receivers, whatever. That defense was always elite. Sean McVay, even when they've struggled, it's not because of the offense. I want to welcome a new sponsor to the Aaron Torres pod, Blue Chew. Fellas, remember back in the day when you were always ready to go? Well, things change. You got a lot on your mind. Your football team isn't very good. Well, here's the good news. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. To get started, it's so easy. Just go to bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. No awkward trip to the doctors, no waiting at the pharmacy, no stink eyes, no raised eyebrows, nothing. Thing is, though, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, Torres, does it actually work? Do you think I need to try it? Well, here's the deal. Try it for a month for free, and I think there will be no turning back, all right? You'll love it. Your partner is going to love it. Your football team may stink, but you'll be rocking like the 85 Bears between the sheets. So go ahead, try it out. And here is the great news. We have a special offer for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. You can try Blue Chew for free when you use the code Torres at checkout. All you got to do is pay $5 in shipping. Go to bluechew.com, use promo code Torres at checkout. You get Blue Chew for free for a free month, and you only have to pay $5 shipping. Again, visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. Thank you to Blue Chew for sponsoring the Aaron Torres podcast. You go on and on down the list. And so I will give Venables credit. The defense has been good, and what is clear, they just need to completely upgrade the offensive line, because to me, I don't really know, like, are they this bad? Because the defense is good. Defense held South Carolina under 250 yards yesterday. You take out the 2 defensive touchdowns, we're sitting at a, what are we sitting at? 35 minus 14 is 21 points. 21-9 feels a lot different, even if it's disappointing. But you can't move the football. We don't know if Jackson Arnold is the quarterback. By the way, I mentioned it early in the show, but for people who are watching this as a standalone clip, yes, I am aware that the offensive coordinator has been fired. But part of this is what happened last offseason, okay? And listen, I know Oklahoma fans are tired of hearing about this, but I'm sorry. The Dillon Gabriel decision, if Venables doesn't make it, the decision to let Dillon Gabriel walk last offseason is going to go down as one of the great disasters in the history of college football, okay? I understand the circumstances. I understand that you were expecting him to go pro. You were ready to hand the baton to Jackson Arnold, okay? I understand that he didn't get the feedback he wanted. We're in an NIL era, and he decided to leave. But part of it was also you kind of promised Jackson Arnold. And I even understand the context of you get if Jackson Arnold hits, you get 2 years of Jackson Arnold versus 1 year of Dillon Gabriel. Here's my counter to that. We need a new rule in college football. We need a new rule where if you have a quarterback who just completed 70+% of his passes with 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and led you to a 10-win season, and he has eligibility and he wants to play college football, and you're a Power 5 team, I'm not talking about your Akron or UL Monroe or whatever, and you have the money to pay him, you freaking pay him. So to me, don't blame the offensive coordinator. Blame yourself. You let Dillon Gabriel walk out the door. But ultimately, I still think if you can get that O-line cleaned up, I don't think you're that bad, because that defense is at least taking care of business. With USC, USC's problems are everywhere. First off, it's kind of ironic, right? Is the idea that, Oklahoma is losing because they kind of ran off a quarterback. Lincoln Riley actually kind of made the opposite decision last year. They were recruiting quarterbacks in the portal. I believe at one point they had Will Howard on campus, and they instead decided Miller Moss had a great bowl game. And I was an advocate of this, by the way, so I'm not sitting here saying I have all the answers. But they said Miller Moss, maybe he is a starter at the Power 5 level, Power 4 level, whatever. They decided to keep him. Well, now he's not really good enough. But here's the crazy part about SC. It's a team-wide problem. First off, the defense, which we all thought was kind of fixed and figured out, not very good. And it's not even that they're not good. For whatever, they can't make adjustments in the second half. They were up 20-6 at halftime against Penn State, end up losing 33-30. Not great at math means Penn State gave up 27, or Penn freaking State scored 27 points in the third quarter, fourth quarter, and overtime to win. That's not good enough. By the way, you got killed by a tight end. I'm not a scheme guy, but how did a tight end finish with 17 catches for however many yards? And then, of course, this past game against Maryland, you were in control and you couldn't get off the field defensively. So this is a disaster. I think USC is in worse shape. Oklahoma's recruiting better. Oklahoma at least has the offensive line, or at least has the defense figured out. They got to get the offensive line right, and maybe they have a chance. USC is a debacle. I don't think it's getting better. I don't even know what the answers are because I don't think Miller Moss is good enough, but the O-line isn't good enough, but the defense isn't taking care of business. It is a disaster for USC. By the way, USC is playing on Friday night this week. For people who don't know, I live in Los Angeles. Was thinking about going to that game. Probably going to go ahead and pass on that one, especially, by the way, I'm just warning you. The crowd there might not be very good on Friday night. Game 1 of the World Series, as I'm recording here, we're about to have Game 6 of the NLCS. If the Dodgers are in that World Series, I don't think you're going to get very many fans at the USC game. Don't want to jinx the Dodgers, by the way, but that's the truth.